chapter 47, In Confirmation of Confidence. During the summer of 1890, Mrs. White devoted much of her time to writing. In October, she was urged to attend general meetings in Massachusetts, New York, Virginia, and Maryland. After a few days spent in Adams Center, New York, she attended a general meeting at South Lancaster, Massachusetts. On the journey from South Lancaster to Salamanca, New York, she caught a severe cold and found herself at the beginning of the Salamanca meeting much worried as a result of 10 days of arduous labor at South Lancaster and heavily burdened with hoarseness and a sore throat. About 200 had assembled from all parts of Pennsylvania and southwestern New York. The meetings were held mostly in the Opera House, but Sabbath afternoon and evening they were held in the Congregational Church. Mrs. White spoke Sabbath afternoon on the necessity of a greater effort on the part of our churches to cherish faith and love. Sunday morning she spoke in the Opera House. There was a large audience, filling all the seats and aisles, and crowding about the platform close to the speaker. Her subject was temperance, and she dwelt largely upon the duty of parents so to train their children to habits of fidelity and self-denial, that they need not be overcome when tempted to drink intoxicating liquors. After this meeting, Mrs. White was so thoroughly exhausted that her secretary, Miss Sarah McInterfer, urged her to return to her home in Battle Creek and take treatment at the sanitarium. Elder A.T. Robinson and others interested in the remaining meetings which she had promised to attend pleaded that she should not abandon hope for health and strength to continue for her labors. With great difficulty she filled an appointment Monday afternoon, and then felt that she must decide what course she should take about attending the Virginia meeting which followed immediately, violently opposed to her Christian life by her husband. This interview lasted an hour. After this, weary, weak, and perplexed, she thought to retire to her room and pray. Climbing the stairs, she knelt by the bed, and before the first word of petition had been offered, she felt that the room was filled with the fragrance of roses. Looking up to see whence the fragrance came, she saw the room flooded with a soft, silvery light. Instantly her pain and weariness disappeared. The perplexity and discouragement of mind vanished, and hope and comfort and peace filled her heart. Then, losing all consciousness regarding her surroundings, she was shown in vision many things relating to the progress of the cause in different parts of the world and the conditions which were helping or hindering the work. Among the many views presented to her were several showing the conditions existing in Battle Creek. In a very full and striking manner, these were laid out before her. Tuesday forenoon, November 4, was the time set for the departure from Salamanca. In the morning, Elders A.T. Robinson and W.C. White called to see what Mrs. White had decided to do. Then she told them of her experience of the evening before and of her peace and joy through the night. She said that during the night she had had no inclination to sleep, for her heart was so filled with joy and gladness. Many times she had repeated the words of Jacob, "Surely the Lord is in this place, and I knew it not. This is none other but the house of God, and this is the gate of heaven." Genesis 28:16 and 17. She was fully decided to attend the meetings according to appointment. Then she proposed to tell the brethren what had been shown her regarding the work in Battle Creek. But her mind immediately turned to other matters, and she did not relate the vision. Not until the general conference held in Battle Creek the following March did she relate it. The remainder of November and the month of December were spent in the eastern states, at meetings in Washington and Baltimore and in Norwich. Lynn and Danvers, Massachusetts. January and February were spent in labors at Battle Creek and in preparation for the General Conference. Proposals regarding centralization. During the year 1890, much thought had been given by leading men connected with the management of the Review and Herald Publishing Association to a proposal for the consolidation of the work of the publishing houses under one board of control. The proposed union of the publishing interest was advocated as a means of securing unity, economy, and efficiency. At the same time, the hope was expressed that at no distant day all the sanitariums might be brought under one ownership and control. By the same ones who advocated consolidation of the publishing houses and the medical institutions, the theory was advanced that the surest way to establish confidence in the work that Seventh-day Adventists were doing was to strengthen the institutions at headquarters by providing them with large and substantial buildings and with ample facilities. But those who were personally acquainted with the conditions existing in the home and foreign mission fields felt that there was greater need for broadening the field work and establishing many centers of influence. They felt that already a disproportionate amount of means had been expended at headquarters. Moreover, the men bearing responsibility at the publishing house in California did not approve of any plan of consolidation that might result in the crippling of the work on the Pacific Coast. Suggested changes in policy. Among those working in the cause of religious liberty, there had arisen serious differences of opinion regarding the best way to conduct that rapidly developing work. For several years, the American Sentinel and the ministers of the denomination had treated the question of religious liberty as a vital part of the third angel's message. But during the year 1890, the leading speakers of the National Religious Liberty Association had found an open door to present the principles that they were advocating and their protest against religious legislation before large audiences of secular and non-Christian people, and it appeared to them that it would be a wise plan to improve these opportunities, and also that it would be consistent to let these principles stand out very clearly, unassociated with the teachings of the Scriptures regarding the sacredness of the Sabbath and the nearness of the second advent of Christ. They urged that the policy of the Sentinel be changed, and declared that if this could not be effected, they would propose that another paper be published in Battle Creek, the editorial policy of which should be in harmony with their manner of presenting truth. Formal consideration of proposed changes. The General Conference in 1891 was held in Battle Creek, March 5 to 25. Sunday forenoon, March 15, the Committee of 21 appointed at the preceding General Conference to consider the consolidation of the publishing interests presented its report. The committee spoke favorably of the objects to be gained by consolidation, but advised that the conference move cautiously. They then proposed that the General Conference Association be reorganized with a view to its eventually securing control of all the publishing work of the denomination. In harmony with the advice of this committee, the General Conference Association, intended at first as an agency for the holding of church property, was reorganized with a board of 21 members and was given control of many lines of work, of which publishing interest stood first. A special committee council. Early in the meeting, an effort had been made by the officers of the National Religious Liberty Association and the representatives of the American Sentinel to come to an agreement regarding policies and plans. To this end, a joint council was arranged to be held Saturday night, March 7, after the regular meeting in the Tabernacle. At this council meeting, men with strong convictions and fixed determinations expressed their views and feelings very freely, and at last the representatives of the National Religious Liberty Association voted that unless the policy of the American Sentinel was changed, the association would establish another periodical to be its organ. This joint meeting continued until after 1 o'clock Sunday morning. The Sabbath service. Sabbath, March 7, was a day of deep solemnity. In the forenoon, Elder Haskell spoke on the worldwide proclamation of the gospel. As in the apostolic age, the gospel was proclaimed in its purity with a power which carried it into all the world, so in the last days God is to bring out every ray of light in the everlasting gospel and send it with the power of His Spirit into all the earth. In the afternoon, Mrs. White spoke on the importance of preaching the Word and the danger of covering up and keeping in the background the distinctive features of our faith, under the impression that prejudice will thereby be avoided. If there is committed to us a special message as we believe, that message must go without reference to the customs or prejudices of the world, not governed by a policy of fear or favor. Some will receive it and be sanctified through it, though multitudes will oppose and reject it. But it must go everywhere till the very earth is lightened with its glory. She dwelt especially upon the danger of leaving our first love, and upon the importance of all, especially those connected with our leading institutions, having a vital connection with Christ, the true vine. Patterning after the world and adopting a worldly policy must be guarded against. Men in responsible positions must go to God as often as did Daniel, in earnest supplication for divine help. 2 or 3 times during the discourse she began to tell the story of her experience at Salamanca, and each time she hesitated, and leaving the story untold, proceeded with other lines of thought. This discourse made a profound impression on the large congregation. Late in the afternoon, a ministers' meeting was held in the east vestry of the tabernacle. Mrs. White was present and pleaded for a deeper consecration. At the close of this special meeting, she was asked by Elder O.A. Olson if she would attend the ministers' meeting Sunday morning. She replied that she had done her part and would leave the burden with him. Then it was planned that Elders Olson and Prescott should lead the meeting. Sunday morning, about 5:20, Elder A.T. Robinson, W.C. White, and Ellery Robinson were passing Mrs. White's residence on their way to the early meeting. They saw a light in her room, and her son ran up to inquire about her health. He found her busily engaged in writing. She then told him that an angel of God had wakened her about 3 o'clock and had bidden her go to the ministers' meeting and relate some things shown her at Salamanca. She said that she arose quickly and had been writing for about 2 hours. At the ministers' meeting, an earnest season of prayer had just closed when Mrs. White entered with a package of manuscripts in her hands. With evident surprise, Elder Olson said, "We are glad to see you, Sister White. Have you a message for us this morning?" "Indeed I have," was her reply. She then said that it had not been her plan to attend the morning meeting, but that she had been awakened very early and instructed to prepare to relate to the brethren some things shown her at Salamanca. She told briefly the story of her experience at the Salamanca meeting and said that in the vision given her there, the Lord had opened before her the condition and perils of the work in many places. Warnings were given her which she was commanded to present to men in responsible positions. Especially in Battle Creek, great perils surrounded the work, for men knew it not because impenitence blinded their eyes. With regard to one occasion, her guide said, "Follow me," and she would usher into a council meeting where men were advocating their views and plans with great zeal and earnestness, but not according to knowledge. One brother stood before the council with a paper in his hand and criticized the character of its contents. The paper was the American Sentinel. Pointing to certain articles, he said, "This must come out, and that must be changed. If the Sentinel did not contain such articles as these, we could use it." The articles pointed out as objectionable were upon the Sabbath and the second coming of Christ. With clearness, Mrs. White spoke of the views and attitude of the chief speakers in this council meeting. She referred to the harsh spirit manifested by some and the wrong positions taken by others. She closed her remarks with a most earnest appeal that all should hold forth the truth in its perfection, and that the watchman should give the trumpet a certain sound. A solemn conviction rested upon the assembly, and all felt that they had been listening to a message from heaven. Elder Olson was bewildered and knew not what to say. He had not heard of the special committee meeting, which had been continued into the early hours of that very morning, and which had closed less than 2 hours before the angel bade Mrs. White tell the vision given her 4 months before, in which this very meeting was minutely described. But he had not long to wait for an explanation. Soon the men who had been in the council of the night before arose and testified regarding their committee meeting. One said, "I was in the meeting last night, and I am sorry to say that I was on the wrong side, and I take this early opportunity to place myself on the right side." The president of the National Religious Liberty Association bore a clear testimony. He said that the night before a number of brethren had met in his room at the review office and there discussed the very matters just referred to by Mrs. White. Their deliberations had continued until after 1 o'clock in the morning. He said he would not undertake to describe the meeting. That was unnecessary, because the description as given by Mrs. White was correct and more exact than he could give it. He freely acknowledged that the position he had held was not right, and that he could now see his error. Another brother stated that he had been in the meeting, and that the description given by Mrs. White was true and correct in every particular. He was profoundly thankful that light had been given, because the differences of opinion had created a very serious situation. He believed that all were honest in their convictions and sincerely desired to do what was right, yet their views were at variance and they could not agree. Others who had been present at the late committee council over the Sentinel bore testimony that the meeting had been correctly described by Mrs. White. Other testimonies were borne expressing thankfulness that light had been given on this question, which was attended with so much perplexity. They also expressed their gratitude that the message had been given in such a way that all could see not only the wisdom of God in the message, but also the goodness of God in sending it at such a time that none could doubt its being a message from heaven. This experience confirmed the faith of those who believed and deeply impressed those who had felt that their own experienced judgment about business matters was safer to follow than the plans for the distribution of responsibility and the establishment of many centers of influence that had been called for by their brethren in the field and by the testimonies.